Good morning. Hello, hello. I see all the faces. I have my new coffee mug my sister sent me. It says, "A hug in a mug from my aunt up above." So Auntie Bev is here with us today. Gigi and Jenny and Laura, good morning. Did anybody see the Allen versus Pharaoh third panel last night? And it was talking about alienation. So incredibly, good morning, Randy. So incredibly powerful. And if you have not watched it, it's still on the Jane Doe Facebook page or the Jane Doe YouTube page. It's Jane Doe Films. So they are just amazing for the work that they've done on this documentary and showcasing what so many of us are up against. And one of the things that, one of my favorite quotes that came out of it last night was attorney Richard Ducote, and he said, "Parental alienation is the only disease diagnosed by attorneys." And talk about how, if we take the emotions out of it, the fact that it is the worst thing to ever happen to moms and kids in the family court system, it's wicked smart strategy. If we are, taking all of the, cutting all of the heartstrings, making, really making this about strategy and not the reality that it's destroying lives. They found a way to take allegations of abuse and flip the table and make it the fault of the victim, and that the victim is the perpetrator and the problem, and turning children against, it's so powerful to watch this panel that came together. Joan Meyer, one of my absolute heroes in this world from the National Family Violence Law Center, she was the moderator. Marlene McLean, out of, I believe she's in Colorado, very long time, I think 3 decades. She's been not only advocating for her own daughter, but for so many other children. Annie Kenny, who is currently, she was the scholarship winner for the High Conflict Divorce Coach Certification Program. She is currently in my course. Richard Ducote, and Suzanne Chester. She's from North Carolina, and she actually came to our Family Court Awareness Month event in North Carolina last year and spoke. So I felt like I was surrounded by some of my favorite people last night. And if you haven't watched it, I highly, highly recommend it. I'm actually having it transcribed because there were so many amazing quotes that I want to share and propel their message forward, because and to hear Joan Meyer say that she's watching some shift taking place and some change taking place, that further validates what I've been saying, is that I feel we are right on the brink of something, of all of this being exposed. And so I am just grateful for all of the people coming together, working in their own industries to shine such a huge spotlight on these issues. So yeah, good stuff. Go watch that panel if you missed it. It'll be up on their page indefinitely. Let's see, what else? November 1st on Susan Guthrie's podcast, we're going to kick off Family Court Awareness Month. Go look her up on Instagram, follow her podcast. She's an attorney, mediator. She has so many titles. She is an amazing person. And then November 5th, California Protected Parents Association is going to host a huge online virtual event, and I'm going to pop in and briefly introduce myself and say a few words during that. But go to their page, make sure you're signed up for the event. It's in collaboration with UCI, and it's going to be amazing. So The other thing that struck me before I move on to questions, in the panel last night, the judge, it made complete sense, why the judge saw through all of Woody Allen's, legal shenanigans and all of the stuff he was trying to do to paint Mia in a bad light and to discredit Dylan, and this is all Mia coaching and alienation, is the judge was married to a domestic violence advocate. So if that doesn't say it all right there, that is, and it's the lack of training behind the bench. So much of this is, and I get people sending me messages that that's not what it's about. Yeah, there's different categories. It's a scale. You've got some judges and family court professionals who are so narcissistic or sociopathic or dysfunctional themselves or abusers themselves, that no, there's no amount of training. I could stand on their front lawn with a bullhorn and yell, messages of education to them. It's not going to make a difference. But then you've got another sector in there that are just so calloused and they suffer from compassion fatigue. And I fully get that, because back pre-COVID, when I was sitting in the courtrooms on a regular basis, it wears on you. And I have to make a conscious decision every day that every case, every story is important. And it doesn't matter where the child falls on the scale of abuse. A child being abused is a child being abused. But that is something that I personally have committed to do every day. They don't. I couldn't do their jobs. And then you've got the ones who just don't have training in domestic violence. And unfortunately, most people are shocked to know that most judges sitting behind the bench have zero training in domestic violence. And so I do believe that there are judges who, with proper training, the Gabby Petito video, I hope that makes its way into those who have positions of power, and it can be broken down. I don't know if anybody saw me. I made national news this week talking about that video and how we watched the full cycle of abuse play out in that video, and that absolutely needs to be training material for anyone who is in a position of power or authority. So, and actually somebody sent me a screenshot of their TV. I'm having a loss for words this morning. Their TV in their hotel room in Phoenix, where on a whole nother domestic violence case, they listed One Mom's Battle as a resource. And so, we're gaining momentum. Our message, it's on all of us. We need to be talking about these things, and some of you can't, and I understand that, due to your own cases. So, but if you can, or if you have an account that is not traced to you, make sure you are spreading these messages far and wide, because you never know who will read them. And we're so, entrenched in this that we forget every single day somebody is having a light bulb moment. I get the emails like, oh my God, your book just made sense of my past 10 years. Every day people are becoming validated, educated, empowered by all of these messages that are out there. So we just need to keep going on that. Okay, so the questions for today. Number one, how do I show the court that my toddler is being brainwashed by his father? How do I protect my child? So there are two stages that are the most heartbreaking. I've been there for the first one, and that is the baby, infants, toddlers, / toddlers stage, where they're nonverbal. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And I'm going to a event next week on attachment, and that's going to be a heavy one for me personally, but also I know what it's like to have a 2-year-old who is being used as a pawn and manipulated and hurt. And it's one of my most painful memories looking back, when they can't describe to you what's happening, but things are happening. That when you get your toddler back, they are a completely different person. And I'll say, my personal experience, who my 2-year-old was when my divorce started: fiery, spunky, her favorite word was no, like a lot of 2-year-olds. And the child I have today, 14 years old, while she is one of the most amazing humans I've ever met, full of light and love and kindness, she is a completely different personality than who she started out with. I have to trust that she has her own parallel journey going on. As a mom, do I wish I could have put her in a bubble? Absolutely. But going back to the question, for me, it was documenting the regression, whether it's sleep, whether it's eating, the times that I could not even go to the bathroom without my child just clinging to my leg. She went from being the most independent little girl to, I could not even be out of the room without causing her distress. And so not only me documenting those things, but any other neutral third parties who can document those things, the preschool teachers or daycare, if that's applicable to you. I remember the difference that the daycare providers or the preschool teachers were notating from my weekends with the girls or my time with the girls, and then how different they were when he dropped them off on Monday morning, and that it took Monday, Tuesday, sometimes even Wednesday for them to get back in the groove. So anywhere you can have neutral third parties also paying attention to these things and documenting. And then I got my kids into play therapy really, really early. They were 2 and 4. And that has been an incredible help for them. And, therapy can be a lifelong process. I know it has been for me. Sally said, can you direct us to the panel, please? I'm just joining in. Yes, go to Jane Doe Films on Facebook or on YouTube, and they will have the panels. You can watch all 3 panels, and there's one more that will be next Thursday. You can watch it live at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and on their Facebook page or YouTube. I highly, highly recommend it. Support this work that they're doing, like their page, leave a comment thanking them. We need the media and film producers like this to keep doing these stories. And a lot of people keep asking me, have I watched The Maid? I will say I have not right now. I'm in a place where I've got so much going on, I cannot risk being triggered right now. And from what I've heard, it will likely be a trigger for me. So I'm pushing pause on that, but I do promise that I will watch it because I've heard they did a really good job. So with the documentation, and I'm a broken record on this topic. Sometimes it feels like it's in vain. Sometimes it feels like no one's listening. Why am I doing this? Just keep doing it. You never know when that documentation will matter, when it will see the light of day. And I know from my second custody evaluation in 2013, the judge actually ordered, even though we had had an evaluation in 2010, ordered the evaluator to go all the way back to the beginning and investigate all of my allegations. So that's where my documentation, still, it was only a tiny, tiny percentage of it that has ever been seen, but I do credit my documentation and how I presented it to that second evaluator, which ended up securing permanent professional supervised visits for us. For those of you who know my story, you know that that's over and I've terminated parental rights, but that evaluation was a huge step forward. And for me, the difference between our first evaluation, when I didn't have enough documentation, I didn't understand how to present the patterns of behavior, and how important my own presentation was in that situation. I was, a completely different person from right when I left the relationship until a few years into it. And so just keep documenting everything, even when it feels like it's in vain. So, and then question number 3, let's see. Oh, and I should say, I should plug this. If you don't have a documentation system that you feel is working for you, or you feel overwhelmed and scattered, go to the One Mom's Battle website and click online courses. And you can use OMB Thank You to save 20%. And I just got Invisalign, so if I'm talking funny, I feel like my whole mouth is really weird right now. Is it normal for one to try and make the marriage work when they know it's toxic? Yes, it is. And I know, I can share in my situation when my counselor first told me, I can't diagnose him, but what you're describing sounds a lot like narcissism. And then and I was so hopeful, like, oh my goodness, what do we do to fix this? And the reality is, she told me, you can't. You either learn that this is your life or you move out. And I had a really hard time with that. I wasn't ready to hear that and to really let that sink in, because I was still operating with a fixer brain. And if I was just kinder, nicer, thinner, prettier, all of those things, I could fix him. That didn't work out, and here we are today. But it took me another 6 months after learning what I was up against for me to make that decision. And we're all on our own paths. What I will say, even with everything we've been through, I would have made the same decision again, and even if we were still in a shared custody situation, I would still make the decision to leave, because I feel that a child being raised by a narcissist, when they have no reprieve from it, when their foundation is being created, that this is what a relationship is, this is what marriage looks like. I hear from so many moms who say, I wish I would have had these resources 20 years ago, because I stayed and I didn't understand what I was dealing with. And even though I thought I was doing what was best for my kids and that I could shelter them from the majority of it, now my children have gone on to either be abused, be in dysfunctional relationships, or be the abuser, which is, those are both heartbreaking situations. And the emails that I receive from those moms probably have more pain and shame and guilt in them than any other email that I receive. And so that's been a learning lesson for me, is to look at it through that lens. My opinion is that even if I had, let's say, even if I had 25% custody and he had 75, I have 25% of their time to show them what healthy looks like and to go above and beyond. We are in a 50-50 world. So the majority of cases that I see are 50-50. But I would rather have 50% of their time to model what healthy looks like, to show them what empowerment looks like, and to be able to teach them about boundaries and red flags, but also be modeling that, because those are hard things to teach a child when you are being abused and when you aren't, modeling and truly doing what you're preaching. So that's and there is absolutely no judgment. We are all in different places in this journey, and we have all, been there. We get it. But I will say, for me and for so many others, I would choose to leave time and time again, because I don't want my kids growing up thinking that that's normal. And I see a lot of fixer questions going on over there. I think that is, what so many of us, if we just love them a little bit harder, or, they making excuses, they had such a rough childhood and they just need love. Well, I had a rough childhood also, and I don't hurt and abuse people. So I don't really, I struggle with that, that excuse card or victim card. Share our stories. Does anyone know of any good blogs, forums, websites? We are taking stories. If you go, I see Shawshank's list. We are taking stories at intheirbestinterest.com if you're interested in sharing over there. And before we ever used anything publicly, right now we're just in the collection phase. But before we use anything publicly, we would get your permission. So at this point, it's very private. It's also a great place to, if you have a really bad experience with a family court professional, especially anyone who's peddling the alienation junk science, go put it in our intheirbestinterest.com database. We want to hear their names. We want to be able to connect those of you who have been affected by the same bad, crooked, corrupt players. And so, please make sure you're sharing over there. Last thing that I want to talk about, Family Court Awareness Month. It has been, I think we're probably at 115 proclamations from cities, counties, and even an entire state, Idaho, signed on to declare the entire month of November as Family Court Awareness Month. And you can go to our website at familycourtawarenessmonth.com to see the entire list. But just this week, I don't want to say her name because she's amazing, and she's been doing so much work. So many of you, Gigi pretty much scored the state of Maryland with some help from somebody else. It was amazing. But we got Atlanta, Georgia yesterday, and the one that made me tear up, San Francisco, California. And so these are huge. We got Miami-Dade County in Florida to proclaim November as Family Court Awareness Month. And I actually got an invitation from a national news organization to talk about Family Court Awareness Month in November. And I am just so grateful, because as we all know, it's so hard to get them to pick up on these stories unless a tragedy has happened. But again, this is another area where we are gaining momentum and seeing change happen. So keep getting involved in Family Court Awareness Month, and we appreciate all of the help. There's a template letter you can cut and paste, send to your mayor, CC me on it. We're tracking all of these proclamations, but it's just has been truly amazing. So, and I could not do it. Somebody, said, Tina, great job. I can't believe you, yesterday. I'm like, I cannot take credit for these. These are truly, it's our goal to connect people within their communities, create a foundation within the communities that says, hey, we have a problem, because most people don't even know that there is an issue in family court. They're naive, just like so many of us were back when we first walked through those doors, expecting that, hey, our kids are just going to be protected because that's what this court system does. And as we all know, there's a huge problem. And so we're putting it on the map. We want to raise awareness, and then who knows where this is going to go year after year. We are only in our second year, and we have accomplished some pretty amazing things in this first 2 years. Los Angeles has not signed on. There are a couple of cities who we are really struggling with. Los Angeles, San Diego it's been really disappointing. And let's see, Mill Valley, California, they didn't, there's been quite a few. And I go back at them and say, it doesn't matter, this, a lot of them come back and say, hey, we don't have a courthouse in our community. I'm like, this is a social justice issue. It doesn't matter where the courthouse is physically located. Members of your community are being affected by family court. This is something we all should be on board and caring about. It's about prioritizing child safety. That's a no-brainer. So if you, okay, Janelle, I sent your letter to the city of Aubrey, Texas. Texas, we have Austin, Dallas, Houston, and Kemp. So many. Let them know, cut and paste the ones from Texas who have come on board and follow up with them and just say, hey, these are the cities in Texas that have chosen to prioritize family court or children's rights and to proclaim November as Family Court Awareness Month. And we'd love to add you to this list. I did that yesterday here in my county, and I got 3 new cities to join, and they said, please, oh my gosh, add us to that list. So just keep following up. We would love that. So, all right. Thank you all so much, and happy Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. So much love to all of you. Bye-bye.